We're about to become empty nesters, my husband and I. I'm not real fond of that term because it sounds like such a sad state, right? Like we have a nest and now it's empty and lonely and sad. Well, I'd rather call us free flyers because we're now free to go wherever we want, when we want, and free to be at home when the kids come home. It's the best of both worlds, isn't it? And I won't lie, it's bittersweet, but it's also positive for the kids and for us. For a lot of reasons, many empty nesters or free flyers find this transition really hard, really sad. There's real grief with the end of one phase of your life and moving into the next. And many moms, especially, feel a lot of anxiety sending their kids out into the world because their kids aren't prepared for their time truly being away from home. And within my own circle of acquaintances over the past, I would say 10 years, I've heard a lot of kids who left their school and came home, who really weren't able to live away from home. Now, that's each family's decision, but I would love for every child to have the skills to go to college if they choose to be able to be independent enough so that the choice to stay at school or to come home is not because they were stressed out by doing laundry or knowing how to wake up on time. So I'm going to share with you the 5 need to know sets of skills that I think every high school senior needs to know before that first day of college. And these are things that I've taught my own kids as they went away to college, and that I've made sure that our youngest knows now before he heads to college in the fall. This is episode 102, 5 things every high school senior needs to know before day 1 of college. The 5th principle of the Organizing for Beautiful Living philosophy is thrive daily. The idea behind it is that your physical and mental well-being are shaped by your environment and your routines. When those are working, well, then your life runs better. And so when your kid is suffering, it is hard for you to thrive daily. Your environment is anxiety filled. I know I lose sleep when one of my kids is struggling with something hard, when they face challenges they don't know how to deal with. And you want to help them, of course. But in order for you to thrive daily, you need to know that they can see a way to figure things out, that they have a way to move forward. There might be times you'll need to guide them, sure. But in general, I think most of us want our kids to be as independent as possible. College is a difficult transition for a lot of kids. It might be their first time really being away from home, away from their parents and siblings, away from the groups of friends that they've had all through elementary and high school. And we want to set them up well so that the regular everyday things that they have to manage don't become the obstacle. We want those things handled so that they have the mental space to focus on learning, on finding their people, and figuring out who they are outside of your house. You will thrive when you know that your kid is okay. You'll thrive when you're not worried about their everyday, right? So today I want to walk you through these 5 major things that every high school senior needs to know before day 1 of college. And some of these will feel obvious, and some might be things that you didn't think about, but all of them are worth a real conversation before your kid leaves. Let's get into it. The first need to know that I would focus on with your child right now through the summer until they leave for college is running their own day. This is the most foundational area, and it's also the one that can catch your kid off guard if you've been the driving force behind the 3 things I'm going to mention here. In high school, the structure of your kid's day comes mostly from the outside. Like the school bell tells them that class is starting or ending. Teachers remind them of deadlines. Their coach sends them group reminders of when to show up for practices. And you make sure that they're up and out of the door on time. So the structure is largely external. In college, that goes away fast. A college schedule might have class Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m., and then nothing until noon on Tuesday, or an 8 a.m. lab one day a week, and everything else spread out across what looks like a lot of open time. And that open time is wonderful when you know how to manage it. But it's hard for your child to know intrinsically how to manage a schedule like that when they've lived the past 18 years with every day spent in a school building with back-to-back class periods. So the first piece here is waking up on their own consistently at a time that fits their schedule without you as the fallback. This sounds obvious, and I'm telling you, it is not a given. A lot of kids have never had to do it because they've never had to. And the natural consequence of not doing it in college, which is missing class, is a steep price to pay to learn that lesson. If you have time before they leave this summer, practice this now. Agree on a consistent wake up time or varying wake up times on different days, whatever might make sense for you and them, and then step back completely. You can remind them the first week, but after that, no knocking on the door to see if they're awake. No, hey, did you set your alarm texts the night before or anything like that? Let them own it. Let them feel what it's like to be the only person responsible for getting themselves up. And what do you do if they miss a day? Call it a learning experience. If they forgot to set an alarm or they slept through the alarm, ask them what they might do so it doesn't happen again. Let them decide. If they ask for your opinion, fine, give it. But see what they come up with first, and then you monitor it together. The second piece is using a schedule, a real calendar, not a mental list. A lot of high school kids have this down already, but sometimes it's just class times and the odd assignment date that their teacher made them put into their calendar, and the kids aren't actually using the calendar. That might be because, well, they're in school all day. They know their schedules by heart, and any schedule changes are posted on TV screens all over the school. In college, exams are practically announced on the first day of the semester or in the syllabus, and then it's entirely on your kid to track them. Or they're announced near the last day of the semester. Reminders aren't sent about assignment and paper due dates. Group project meetings need to be coordinated by the students themselves. If your kid is relying on memory for all of this, something is going to fall through the cracks. So a simple weekly planning habit is all that this will take. So on Friday afternoon, that's my preferred planning time, by the way, instead of Sunday night, so I can enjoy my full weekend. So on Friday afternoon, have them take a few minutes to look at the coming week. What's due? What's happening? What prep needs to happen? 10 minutes. That's it. That's all it could take them. Okay. And encourage them to do this consistently from now through the end of the summer. If your kid builds this habit before they go, it will carry them a long way. And one more thing in this running their own day section is having a conversation with them about the discipline of actually showing up for their education. Go to class consistently. Don't get into the habit of thinking, oh, I can miss this class. I can read the notes or watch the recording later. That's a recipe for continuing to skip the class because there may actually not be any repercussions to them not physically being present in that classroom. And they need to do the assigned work. You won't be there every evening after dinner to say, hey, did you do your homework? And I want to say this clearly. Go to professor office hours and TA sessions. So break the habit you have now of asking them if they've done their homework or if they've studied for that test. Let them know that starting this week, it's on them to step up and take the responsibility of completing work and studying on themselves. Mind you, many high school seniors have this down already. I think sometimes we're the ones who keep hovering and asking. So when you have this conversation with them, ask them how comfortable they are with that. And maybe you can agree just to monitor this together over the next month by looking at their portal, again, together, and you're looking to see that all the assignments were turned in on time and the grades are steady or they're climbing. You don't need to sneak into the portal and catch them if they didn't turn in an assignment, right? What we're talking about here is looking for patterns and then asking them how they want to adjust in case something does get missed. Like if they don't do well on a test next week, talk about how they studied. Did they block some time on their calendar to study? Did they have the right materials to study with? Did they know where to access that? And did they take time to go to the teacher's office hours to ask questions if they didn't understand something? In other words, How can they help themselves get better at the skill of showing up for their own education? By the way, office hours are like the single most underused resource in all of higher education. Most students never go, and they say mostly that they didn't have any questions to ask their professor at the time, or they hadn't started the homework yet, so it didn't make sense to go. The thing is, the students who do get to know their professors, they get noticed. They get letters of recommendation that sounds like the professor actually knows them because the professor does. And they often hear about opportunities that were never publicly posted anywhere. So going to office hours is high return, almost zero cost, and your kids should know that going in. So teach them to start their homework before office hours are scheduled so that if a question does pop up, they can ask about it. But also teach them how to build rapport with their teachers and professors. And we'll talk more about that coming up a little bit later. The second need to know for your child is to tell them that their health is largely their responsibility now. Health, I think, is an area where parents assume that they can help their child with if they do get sick or hurt. It's also where kids are most likely to completely freeze up if they've never taken care of any of their own health needs before they go to college. When they're home, you manage so much of this without either of you realizing it. You schedule the appointments. You know which doctor is which. You keep the medicine cabinet stocked. You know which pharmacy the prescription goes to. And then your kid leaves, and none of that knowledge goes with them unless you have a specific conversation about it. So here's what I'd suggest. Before they go, plan what I would call a health handoff. So cover these 5 things together. First, making their own doctor's appointment. This sounds like a non-issue until they're sick, staring at their phone, and they don't know how to find a provider or what to say when they call the office and a live person answers, or how to use the campus health portal. So before they go to college, walk them through how to make an appointment with their pediatrician here at home, okay? Tell them what to ask when they call. Yes, they're going to be the ones calling, what information they will need to give to the office, what information they don't need to give, like their social security number. Walk through it with them once. And you can even write down a 2-sentence script, right? Like, this is so-and-so, and I need to make an appointment with Dr. Jones for an annual checkup. I'm about to go to college, and I'd like to know if there are any vaccines I still need. Tell them what to say so they can practice. Also, once you know their college campus health and they have access to that, show them how that portal works, where to find the phone number, how to access the website, and what insurance information they'll need to provide to make an appointment if they do get the flu or if they get a splinter that won't come out. Second, about their insurance card, make sure they know where it is physically, and if possible, also have it stored on their phone. And the basics, what a copay is, what it means to be in network. They don't need a full insurance course or anything. They just need to not be completely paralyzed at the urgent care on a weeknight. Third, basic over-the-counter medications and first aid. Tylenol versus ibuprofen, when to use which, what helps with a cold or a stomach issue or a headache, what to look for when they go to buy these over-the-counter medications, how to clean and bandage a minor cut. This is a short conversation. Most families have never had it because it was never necessary. Because when the kids had a cold, you just handed them the medication, or you told them, well, take 2 Tylenol to help you with your headache. Now, it is necessary for them to understand what medications they should have on hand and what they're used for. Listen, you can even buy a small box of acetaminophen, ibuprofen, your favorite cold medication, and write on the box, right on the package with a Sharpie for headaches or for muscle pain, for stuffiness. And yes, it's absolutely fine and prudent for them to call you when they do have a headache and check, hey, Mom, I have a headache. Should I take Tylenol? Because then you can double check any other symptoms or whatever to gauge if they should see a medical professional before self-medicating. Fourth, refilling prescriptions. If your kid takes any regular medication, they need to know how to request a refill locally at their pharmacy at school and how far ahead of running out that they should start that process. whether maybe their home pharmacy can transfer to a campus pharmacy, and what to do if something goes wrong. Show them the logistics of that now. And the fifth part of them taking more responsibility of their health, and I want to give this one an important moment, is recognizing the signs of a mental health struggle and knowing how to get help themselves. College mental health challenges are real and they have been rising. The skill I want your kid to have is not diagnosis, it's noticing. Noticing when something feels persistently off. Not just a rough week or some homesickness in September, but weeks of real difficulty sleeping or of waking up or withdrawing from friends or losing interest in things they used to care about or just a persistent feeling that things aren't going to get better. They need to know their campus has a counseling center. They need to know roughly how to find and access it. And they need to know it's okay to use it because for a lot of kids, that last part is the actual barrier. Have that conversation before they leave. Matter of fact, not scary. Here's the resource. Here's the number. Here's what it's there for. Okay. And if your kid pushes back on the idea, you don't have to make it a big deal. You can just say, I'm not saying you'll need it. I just want you to know that it exists. That's the whole thing. And if this does happen to your child and the campus resources aren't cutting it, of course you will step in and help find off campus help for them. I mean, that's the case for their health in general. If your child is ill and needs your help, of course you'll take the lead. We're not telling them that they're on their own with their health care. That's not realistic yet. They're still largely teenagers, but we want them to learn how to begin to handle things that they are capable of handling. It's a step towards their independence. The third need to know for your kid going to college is that money doesn't manage itself. Here, there are two habits that I think are important. First, your child needs to know how to check their bank and credit card balances regularly, not just when something feels off, but as a standing routine, like once a week. Do it during that Friday planning time. That's a natural time to do it. They take 2 minutes to log into their credit card account or their bank account and just review. Okay. They need to know where the numbers are so they can catch if something looks really off. Second, if they have a credit card and if you've decided that they will pay that bill, not you, show them how to pay it on time every time because, of course, a late payment creates a credit record that's going to follow them. And they often don't realize that until it actually matters, usually when they're trying to rent an apartment the next year or a few years later. I am a proponent of paying off your entire credit card bill each and every month. That forces your child to realize that they need to stick to a budget that they can manage. A practical default that could be attractive for that is to set up auto pay so that they're never late for a payment. But of course, then they have to make sure that the money is available in their account to pay it. But auto pay also means that it's less hands on for your kid. And if we want them to feel the emotion and the process of paying off a credit card, they should do it manually. So they'll need to set up a calendar appointment that says pay credit card bill every month before the due date to process that payment. The fourth need to know is take care of the body you live in. When our kids are at home with us, we see them every day, so we know how they're doing physically. But when they're at school, we don't. So let's start with eating. And I am not telling you to have your kid meal prep like a lifestyle influencer, okay? I'm just saying that although we assume they know not to survive entirely on dining hall cookies and energy drinks for 4 months straight, it doesn't mean that they won't do that and think that it's fine. Knowing what a reasonably balanced meal looks like is an incredibly important piece of knowledge. Your kid needs to know how to put a plate together in the campus dining hall day after day. Don't assume that they just know this from eating the dinners you've made for them at home, okay? When building a reasonable plate of food is a habit, they're more likely to stick to that type of piecemeal meal building at school, no matter what's happening in their lives. So they won't get caught up in the energy drink and cookies cycle. That's the hope, of course, and why they need to practice this summer. So teach them how. Have them name the proteins they like to eat, the vegetables, the fruit, and the grains. It can be as simple as that. If your child is going to be living off campus and doesn't have a university meal plan, and they really cannot cook anything, spend a couple of days this summer doing it together. Pasta, eggs, a grain bowl with whatever you have on hand. That's like, 2-hour investment for a couple of evenings, and they're going to use this for the next 4 years. The flip side of this, some kids go the other direction and get really rigid about food at college, especially under stress. So if you know that your child has any history of food anxiety, this is worth a conversation too. Eating enough, eating regularly, not skipping meals because the schedule got hard. The goal is just to take care of themselves. Next is sunlight in the morning. There's research behind this. Getting natural light early in the morning helps to regulate your sleep cycle, your mood, and your ability to focus. So for college freshmen navigating a new schedule and new stressors and probably some irregular sleep, 10 minutes outside in the morning makes a real difference. It doesn't have to be a workout or anything so structured. It just needs to be in the sun, or at least in the light of day, okay, if it's a cloudy day, in the morning for a little while. Watch for seasonal affective disorder too, especially if your child is not used to a string of cloudy days in a row. That can be tough for us here in Miami, so be on the lookout for that. And laundry, guys. This one is on the list because it is an underestimated skill gap. A surprising number of college freshmen have never done their own laundry, not because they're irresponsible, but just because someone else always did it. They need to know when to sort clothes and when it's not necessary, what temperatures to wash things at, how much detergent to use, what kind of detergent to use, how to read a care label so they don't accidentally ruin their favorite shirt or something like that. Take a few minutes to walk them through doing their laundry while they're still at home, and have them do their laundry throughout the summer. And the fifth need to know for your college-bound child is to start building their future now. Parents, you need to let your child know that college is not just 4 years of coursework. It's 4 years of building relationships with people who can matter professionally and personally for a really long time. And a lot of freshmen have no idea how to approach this simply because there's no one who has taught them. So 2 things here. The first is connecting with professors. And I mentioned this before. Go to office hours. Go in the first few weeks of the semester before anything is due or really stressful. Introduce yourself. Say you're interested in the subject and you want to do well in the class. Ask for that advice. How do I do well in the class? That's all it takes to start with. Most professors want students to come in, and most students never do. The ones who show up, like I said, they become known. They get letters of recommendation. That sounds like the professor actually knows them because he actually does. It is worth it, and your kid should know that going in. And that professor could be the one that they end up doing research with, or who connects them to someone in industry and so on. The second thing is beginning to build a professional identity. Your kid doesn't need a fully formed career plan on day one of college. What they need to know is how to introduce themselves clearly, say what they're studying, and ask one thoughtful question of someone in a field that they find interesting. And also, they should know that even as a first-year college student, there may be something that they can offer to the other person, that other adult, to be helpful to them. That's the real way to network, by the way. What can you offer? For your child, it could be a recommendation of a musical artist that the other person might like to listen to, or a book that they've read that they would recommend. That's the whole skill. That's it. At a guest lecture or a career fair or a networking event or even a LinkedIn message, it's the same basic move every time, okay? Teach them how to do this before they go. Even a quick practice run, like, here's how I'd introduce myself and what I'd say. It goes a long way because when they actually get to college and the opportunities in front of them, the words will already be there, okay? They're not going to freeze. Okay, so let's bring it all back together. 5 major things every high school senior needs to know before day one. First, running their own day. They should practice waking up without a backup alarm and without you, using a real schedule, and showing up for their education, including those office hours. The discipline has to become internal because the external structure they've had all their lives is not going to be there. Second, owning their health, making their own appointments, knowing their insurance card, understanding which basic medications to use and when, knowing how to refill a prescription, and recognizing when they need mental health support and how to access it. Third, money basics. Check balances regularly and pay the credit card on time. Fourth, taking care of their body, eating in a way that isn't destructive, getting outside in the morning light, and knowing how to do their own laundry. And fifth, starting to build their future, going to office hours and learning how to introduce themselves to people who can make a real difference in their future. Now, your kid does not need to master all of this before August. If you can have one real conversation about each of these areas before they go, you've done something really valuable. You're not just sending them to college, you're sending them with a foundation. So if you're looking at this list and feeling a little overwhelmed, that's understandable. That's okay. Be choosy about where to start. Pick the one or two things that you think your kid is least ready for and start there. That's all. That's enough. Your ability to thrive daily means you will need to focus on yourself to an extent, right? Well, your child's ability to thrive daily means the same. They need to be independently able to focus on what they need. So what you're doing by teaching them these 5 things is setting them up for a positive college experience by building their confidence. They'll be confident that they can be fine without you waking them up every morning. So please go ahead and share this episode with the moms in your circle, those who have a senior this year or even a younger child, honestly, because earlier is always better for these conversations. Sending your kid off to college is a really big deal, and part of thriving daily for both of you is knowing that they have what they need to handle the everyday stuff so that they can focus on all the good parts of what's ahead. You've got this, and so do they. Have a beautifully organized week. I'm Z, and I'll see you on the next episode.